Absolutely. All good to rock and roll?
All good to rock and roll, mate.
Oh, that is what we like to hear. Well, on 3 and 2 and 1, and on that bombshell, we are ready to go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the ACCA Global Podcast. And today, I am delighted to welcome Ashim onto the Global Podcast. He is a certified leadership coach, ACCA fellow, MBA, also Middlesex University graduate, and chief executive as well. I'm in awe of his experience, and we have got loads to talk about today. Ashim, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for coming on.
My absolute pleasure, James. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine. I know. Sit on your seat, get comfy. I'm looking forward to this. It's Friday afternoon here in the UK. This is important stuff we're going through today. But so the viewers know as well. Where are you tuning in from today, and also which country are you representing?
Right. Well, I live in Warsaw, Poland. I've been living here for over 20 years. But prior to being here, I was in the UK. I'm from North London.
Mm-hmm.
And prior to that, so, it was a different age. I was in Africa. So I was born in Kenya, spent about 7 years in Ghana, and then moved on to London and then here. And then a couple of years out in the Middle East, and then came back to Poland. So I'm representing whichever country you'd like me to represent.
We've got to go Kenya today. That is mega. And for anyone who is listening in today, my obvious millions of viewers, Ashim, as well, I think we're going to have to be talking about also from going from one country to another, because there'll be people out there that are in that state of should I do it, should I not? We're definitely going to come on to that. But I did hint on there. You are an ACCA fellow, but so the viewers know, how long have you been qualified for now?
92, I believe it was, that I qualified. So
I thought you were going to say 92 years then. Good grief.
Well, I'd say thank you so much. I didn't realize I looked that young.
Every day, 21. Don't you worry
Absolutely.
about that. I'd ID you if you came to a bar and I was serving you. Don't you worry about that. So. But speaking of drinks, more importantly, the rule of the podcast is my lovely guest gets to select what drink we go for today. What have we gone for?
Well, I'm afraid I'm going to be rather boring this morning, James, because I've had my daily cup of coffee, so I'm sticking with water.
Look at the size of that glass.
Absolutely.
Don't hit yourself on the head with that. And it's got your name on it as well.
It's got my name on it. Yeah, it's been engraved.
Rock and roll. Well, I obviously, because the podcast runs on its usual zero budget, if we are looking for a sponsor for my water, I mean, who knows?
Absolutely.
Yes, I'm also looking for a sponsor, Ashim, of my credible notes. This is how we actually run it. It's
that is impressive, James, no doubt.
Watch out, Sky News. I'm ready. I'm available any day of the week. That is it. So, gosh, absolutely mega. But the final thing before we get on to the main star of the show is, how do you and I know each other? The viewers, I'm sure they're intrigued.
Yeah, it was actually quite. It's been a short relationship in that I came across one of your podcasts, and I was fascinated by it. I really enjoyed it. And what I particularly liked was that it is so relaxed, and your guest opened up, and you clearly have quite a bubbly, energetic, and friendly personality, which helps. And so it was very engaging, and I thought, I like that. So I connected with you on LinkedIn, and our conversation started, and here we are. So the rest, as they say, is history.
Wow, the journey is only beginning. I mean,
it is indeed.
This is going to fly by. I've been looking forward to this all week. This is going to be mega, because you've got so many ideas, and leadership is one of those topics that just constantly I kind of think gets thrown around a lot, and you are top notch in your area. But for the first round of our professional podcast, should I say, it's a case of just simply short and sweet introducing yourself, Ashim, to the viewers out there as to what you do and what makes you on LinkedIn, would we say?
Sure. So, well, as James said, I'm an FCCA and an MBA, and I came into accounting rather late in my life because, to be perfectly honest with you, I didn't want to be an accountant. I had this kind of preconceived notion of what accountants looked like, and they were all very boring, and I didn't see myself like that at all. But nonetheless, I did my ACCA, and at the time I was working for a few large organizations in the UK. But I'll never forget when I was sitting in, at a college in London, preparing for the exams, and I looked at the tutors and I thought, wow, that is such a cool job. I want to be that. It was the same as you. Yeah. So as soon as I qualified, I'll never forget this. And I went along to this college and I said, listen, guys, do you need a tutor? And they said, yeah, we need a law tutor. He said, how's your law? I said, oh, law, perfect. I thought, bloody hell, I haven't studied it in like, 3 years or whatever. But I kind of went away and revised everything. And I'll never forget my first ever lecture, and touch wood, it went reasonably well. And that was the beginning of my trading career.
Rock and roll.
And so ACCA, I suppose, I mean, that's when I really felt at home, and when I realized that I didn't want a traditional accounting or finance role. I wanted something to do with people, and training gave me exactly that opportunity. And so, as a trainer, I worked internationally and worked for a couple of organizations, which, in fact, the second one brought me here to Poland. And then I went to Bahrain. I worked for a couple of years there. I was leading 6 training centers.
Oh, wow.
For a very large professional services firm. And it was there that, I was thinking to myself about how, I've been leading teams, I've been leading companies by that stage for about 10 years, something like that. And also I felt, and I suppose this is related to the training, I felt that I had this ability to connect with people. And so I decided, I really want to combine that experience, in a way that helps other people in business, other leaders and so on. So I came back from Bahrain, and what did I do? I went on to see John Maxwell. I became certified as a Maxwell leadership coach and trainer and presenter. So I run, if you like, two parallel lives, professional lives, both of which I enjoy immensely.
Good.
So that's what kind of brings me here, where I am now.
You got to do what you enjoy as well. I read a stat the other day that it's something on the lines of 82% of people don't enjoy what they do. It's just mind-blowing in terms of, I always think about it a case of, if anyone's listening out there, are you one of those people who wakes up on a Monday morning and goes like that? And it's one of those things, you've got to enjoy what you do. It's one of the main things as being a lecturer at the university. It's a case of, speak to students, say, what do you like? That is one of the most fundamental, simple questions, but the simple questions make such a difference. And we're going to come on to questions later on as well. Tap into your experience. Obviously, we have our BBC Sky News presenter here that will keep a track of all of this. So, but
I'm sure.
We're going to come on to our rapid fire round now, which I get to ask some silly questions. Oh, not silly. They're relating to a bit of leadership in there as well. But so the viewers get to know more about you and myself. This is the whole point of the podcast, that viewers can connect with us on LinkedIn, but they get to know us more on a personal level. So when they do, James is into this, Ashim likes this, we're on to a winner. That's what we like. So first one, and I'm really interested in this. Are you either a high-tech person or a low-tech person, would you say?
I'd say I was probably in the middle, but if I only have those two choices, I'd go high-tech more than low-tech.
Nice. Well, yeah. I can see by the headset that is a high-tech headset, that one.
Absolutely. No expense spared for this interview, James, for this meeting.
Well, you see, this is why I move my head from left to right, because I get to model my headset over here. That's it. So Yes, well, lots of people assume that lots of accountants are quite high tech. That's the thing.
Yeah.
And I've had loads of guests on the podcast. So feel free to check out the others, everyone who's watching today, where you'd be surprised quite a lot of accountants are quite low tech in terms of things. But it's all a case of with AI coming in a lot more, fintech, all these different aspects. It's not everyone is actually high tech in these sort of things. But do you have many clients that are quite high tech focused, would you say?
I think, gosh, there are so many kind of levels of technology that I'm working with. So of course, on a personal front, where I'm generating materials and so on, communicating with clients, one gets used to the Zoom platform and others. So yeah, I've learned quite a lot about that there. In terms of using social media, for example, for getting your message out and so on, I've been learning a huge amount there.
There's a
And
lot to
clients,
learn.
sorry,
There's a lot to learn.
absolutely,
Gosh.
absolutely. In fact, just yesterday, I was taught by a very, very close friend of mine about how to edit videos,
Hmm.
put headers and footers in and so on. So I'm constantly learning. In terms of my clients, I'd say pretty much the same. They generally tend to be high tech. There is a certain level of expectation that they have of me and of others that they work with. And,
Nice.
so I'd say pretty much that's the
Oh,
environment in which I'm operating most of the time.
lovely, lovely. Well, nicely leading us on to another question on here, which has impacted me quite a lot in 2020. But do you
Yeah,
prefer books or podcasts?
those are the only two choices.
They're the only two choices. I like both, but I'm more edged towards podcasts because I can fit it
Right.
in with going for a walk, getting some fresh air, and you're sort of combining quite a few things that are really going to benefit you. But I was
Yeah.
curious from your side.
All right. Well, okay. Again, if those are the only two choices, I would say books.
Right.
But I would temper that a bit and say audiobooks. I listen to audiobooks quite a lot.
Hmm. Yeah.
And the reason is the one you just mentioned, which is you can be doing other things
Yeah.
and still read. So I listen to audiobooks, and I also listen to, financial magazines and so
Mm.
on. And so I keep my knowledge up to date, but it doesn't I don't have to stop everything while I'm doing it.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh no. Same tactic as me. I'll be honest. But incorporating a little walk into your day breaks up your day, so you're avoiding that screen time all the time. It's viewers, honestly, try it. It'll make such a difference. Productivity, woof,
Absolutely.
100%,
Yeah, couldn't agree
100%.
more.
Well, this next question is going to be a bit more, cut and dry on it.
All right,
Would
and
would you say, are you a spender or a saver?
spender.
Spender.
No hesitation there.
Really? What do you
Yeah,
like?
I know.
What do you like to spend your money on?
Oh, good Lord. Friends mostly.
Oh no, that's
Um,
that's nice.
I love going out. I guess like you, I'm pretty sociable, so I love going out, doing things with friends. Um, and it's the way we think, right? If there's something we really want to do, we kind of justify it to ourselves afterwards.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm definitely a spender, which I know is not really a good trait for the stereotypical accountant, but nonetheless, yeah, honest.
Oh
That's an
no.
honest answer.
Oh no, oh no, no. It's all about how you spend your money as well on things
Yeah,
that
yeah.
that actually mean value to you as well. Because
Oh, yeah.
lots of people spend money on things that they don't need,
No, no,
to
no.
impress people who they don't like as well. For social media
Oh gosh, yeah.
gratification.
Yeah, yeah,
In
yeah.
terms of it, yeah. Someone commented. I'll let it. I'll let it out to you, Ashim, on this. I
Go on.
posted a photo online of me, out running. Okay, so I finished a run. I finished and I was quite red. I was really hot. I ran a half marathon, and someone commented going, "Why would you put a photo on of you hot and sweaty?" Couldn't believe
Why
it.
not?
I know I think that's what I put back actually,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
just unfollowed them or whatever it was. I won't
Right,
name who
right.
it was, but it just staggered me in terms of stuff. But anyway,
I know.
we digress. We digress because I'm also interested in other things. How you run your life as well in terms of, are you a morning person or an evening person?
Morning. No doubt.
Nice.
Yeah, I love the mornings. Like you were saying earlier, I find I'm much more productive in the mornings.
Spot on.
So I'll often be up at 4 in the morning or 5 in the morning, and I feel absolutely perfect.
Nice.
And so by about 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I've done a fairly solid chunk of work, which is very satisfying. And then you can take a break, and
Oh yeah. Oh,
so
it's
I love all that.
a good book on that is by Tim Ferriss.
Okay.
The 4 hour work week? Or the 5 hour work week, where he's up at 4 or 5 in the morning, and he gets more work done between 5. It's the 5 a.m. club actually. Sorry, 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. He gets more work done in those 4 hours than people get done in a whole day.
Yeah.
And that's his theory. And then he's got a big group online who all do it, and they all get up in the morning. I'm currently at the 5:30 a.m. club. Where,
Oh gosh,
yes,
you're a late getter upper, are you?
Yes, I know.
5:30.
I want a half an hour lie-in. That's it. But let's sort of linking into this as the final one on this round, where you got 3 options on here, and
right.
I'm not no nutritionist or anything on those lines, but it relates to performance. But what would you say is the most important meal of the day for you, so that you're productive? Breakfast, lunch, or dinner out of you?
In terms of productivity, I would say breakfast, without a doubt. I try and keep that healthy, so vegetable smoothie or something like that.
Oh right.
But in terms of enjoying myself, especially with friends, of course, it's got to be dinner.
Spot
a nice meal with a bottle or two of wine. I mean, sorry, a glass or two of wine. But yeah, so
Well, it's Friday afternoon at the moment, where that the wine is nicely cooling in the fridge, and maybe a nice burger and chips. Who knows what it might be this evening? It's
absolutely.
Yes. Well, no, I really appreciate that, and the honesty on it as well. Don't you worry about that. We have relaxed, and now we'll swiftly and nicely move on to getting to know more about my guest as well.
Okay.
This is the part I'm really interested in. So, leadership coach. We'll keep it nice and broad, nice and open. Talk me through it for the viewers as well. What's the sort of daily week? What are you interested in? What does it involve?
Right. So basically, my interest in leadership can be looked at through 2 lenses. The first is the person themselves, the leader themselves, and about getting them to kind of think outside the typical framework, which we all have. But that's the job of the coach, to kind of encourage them to think outside, and to see things perhaps that they hadn't thought of.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give you one example. There are many. I am working on a project with a friend of mine, and it's in the area of what's called biomimicry, which means looking at how nature works and learning lessons from the way that nature works, and lessons in terms of leadership and behaviors, because nature is an extremely efficient system.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an example. But also my interest in leadership can be perceived or viewed from the perspective of the relationships between the teams and the leaders. I'm sure many people watching this will have experienced situations where those relationships weren't as good as they could or should have been.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result of that, the teams weren't able to unleash the innovative power that each person has.
I thought you were going to quote Tony Robbins then. Gosh, unleash the power within.
No. Actually, you're right. I had forgotten, but it wasn't. It might have been a subconscious quote from Tony Robbins, but no. Yeah, so to unleash the innovation that we all have, and to kind of get both sides, if you like, to think along those lines, and to encourage people to feel free to make mistakes, to learn
Yep.
from them, to grow and work together as a team, and so on. And so there's a whole kind of piece over there that's involved. So you asked for a nutshell, but it's not much use asking me to describe anything in a nutshell, because I do prattle on a bit.
Well,
James.
well, the
So-
podcast always ends on a bombshell, so it's all
Oh,
right.
good Lord, there's a
Yeah.
bombshell coming, is
Oh,
there?
there's plenty of bombshells in this
Oh, good Lord.
podcast. It's all right. That's
Right.
oh no, that's mega in terms of it. But what would you say is the main value out of someone having a coach as well?
The main value is, okay, so this is, let me just take one step back. The most important thing in any coaching relationship is that there is trust between the two parties. And what that trust does is it allows the coachee in a safe psychological environment to explore ideas which have been generated by the coach, right? And in that exploration process, to actually identify changes to their lives, which are fundamental. I'll give you one example to illustrate that.
Oh yeah, let's go through it.
A friend of mine, as I think I mentioned earlier, I'm very interested in the martial arts, and this chap was a trainer of mine at my club. And he was always very entrepreneurial and ambitious, but he seemed to be kind of stuck in this kind of rut of, being, if you like, pigeonholed as a martial arts trainer.
Yeah.
I started working with him, and today, and that's the journey's taken him 2 years. Today, he's actually a director of security in one of the largest companies in a particular country, and I'm not going to say which country because then it'd be just too obvious. But he's extremely senior, and he did that in 2 years. And if you were to ask him, I mean, clearly he's the one that did the work, but the coaching process completely fundamentally changed his life, and he saw opportunities in how to leverage those to get to where he wanted to go. So if you ask me what's the greatest value to me and to the coachee, well, for me it's the satisfaction of allowing people to achieve their potential. And to the coachee, of course, it's the belief in self-confidence and quality of life that comes with going to where you want to be, rather than being frustrated and feeling that you're banging your head against a brick wall. So yeah, long answer to short question, but that's the biggest value I find.
Oh yeah, I think having that honest person there with you as well, who you can trust, where you can just open out and whatever thoughts you've got,
right?
It's going to be constructive on there as well, and it should be a case of, not to sound like a psychiatrist here or anything, but the more honest you are, the more you're going to get out of it as well, because you've got tons of experience from working in various different places around the world of various leveling companies that they can just tap into, and it just might be that one nugget of information that, as you said, could be the massive difference between your friend and client going from one place to another. But the psychological edge that I particularly like reading into, it just makes such a difference. But the main thing I always tell myself is, every day at a time. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Just build it day on day on day on, and that's it. And it just compounds on. That's it.
Oh, absolutely. Couldn't have put it better myself, James. Couldn't have put it better myself.
But we nudged onto books there as well. So are you reading any particular books at the moment that are of interest to you?
Actually, yes, I'll share that with you.
Look at that.
If you can see it. No, you probably can't. Anyway, it says the international bestseller on top. It says Thinking Fast and Slow.
Oh, we can see it there. Look at that.
Yeah. So it's a guy called Daniel Kahneman.
Nice.
And he, in this book, he explores our decision-making process, how the brain works, and he explores what's often called the reptile brain, which controls our instinctive responses. And then the other part of the brain, and the name escapes me right now, where we make the rational responses.
Yeah.
And essentially, I mean, I'm about halfway through right now.
Yeah.
But the message that I think is really powerful for me from that book is that we make most of the decisions in our lives in a very instinctive way. In other words, we don't rationally sit down and think them through. We do them instinctively. And so, 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, you find yourself in a position which you may not like. And to make it even worse, you find yourself in that position because you didn't think about getting there, or going there in the first place. And so you feel that, it's your life isn't under your control. What happens to you isn't under your control, but of course it is. And so that's a really kind of powerful message to me, because I think it opens one's mind to the idea that there are ways. I mean, our brain's enormously powerful. There are ways of changing the way that we connect and behave, which change our minds and our lives completely.
Yeah. Oh, we've now got obviously 2 qualified ACCA members, where we're not talking about an audit report or anything on those lines, or how many beans we've counted this week. Honestly, you'd be surprised. These are the sort of things which I always try and encourage my students and people who connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram or anything on those lines. Read around the subject, people skills, adding value, and being in a situation in the working environment where exactly how you're pointing out there is people react so instinctively, and they don't just take that deep breath or that little pause, or a classic one from a lecturer's point of view is a quick sip of water. Always good. Yes, makes a difference. And it's just that 5-10 seconds can make a massive difference. But I always try to think about it as who I'm communicating with, trying to think in their shoes as well. How are they receiving the information I'm trying to put across? And all these just little change there, it just all compounds up, and it makes a massive difference to your audience or who you're trying to communicate with. So
absolutely, compounding is definitely the key there, James. We may not notice the changes in ourselves on a daily basis, but if we are consistent and spend a little bit of time thinking about thinking, if I could put it like that, and then you look back after, let's say, 3 months or 6 months, you will notice a tangible difference.
Yes. Well, the thing I'm reading about at the moment is what type of questions you should be asking as well. And all of our auditing fans out there, I mean, they'll be just reveling in this of, James, this is the report and this is how we do it. But in actual fact, how you pose questions, where the first question should be just 2 answers. It could be yes, could be no. Then you've engaged with the person straight away. Then the next question you fire at them is a bit more open-ended, so that they can get a nugget of information on that, and then lead that with a final one as to completely widening. Then I'm going to test you to see what have you got in there. Let's have a proper discussion.
Right.
And just by changing the way you communicate it, you get so much more value out of the person you're talking to or who you help as well.
No doubt. Questions are hugely powerful, and in fact, they're fundamental to the coaching process as well. And also, what makes asking questions, especially in coaching, but generally as well, so valuable and so powerful, is the ability to really connect and to really listen to what the other person is saying. So it's not just the words, it's the body language, it's the expression, it's the tone, it's all of these things. And when you combine them, you hear the real message, the underlying message that the other person is transmitting. And based on what you learn, you can then formulate your next question, because you've identified an area where there's clearly, I mean, he or she may not have identified it themselves as a problem area, but you have, maybe based on the tone of the way in which they said the particular word, and that is going to allow you to craft a question, which then goes more deeply into the issue.
Oh, we're talking about this from a people and sort of leadership sort of aspect from your role. But if we've got qualified accountants out there, or someone who's part qualified, or even just starting their ACCA journey, you can apply this at any different level, whether you work as an auditor, whether you work in accounts, whether you deal with clients, HMRC, government, whatever it may be. It happens on a day-to-day basis in every role, and it's something which you can't learn from a textbook. It comes with trying and implementing it and just testing out new things and sort of reading around the subject as well, I feel, anyway.
Well, I mean, James, I think the role of the accountant has evolved hugely over the last, certainly 20 years. And so in terms of, the number crunching, the bean counting, I mean, we've got machines that do that, right? The role of the accountant as a professional, as a trusted professional now, is to evaluate, to analyze, to come up with strategies, both for their clients and for the companies in which they work. I teach SBL, Strategic Business Leader at Strategic Professional stage, and I love doing that because it really aims to put students and candidates in the exam in a real world situation. And that's when they start to think, well, okay, I might be called an accountant, but I'm not a number cruncher. I'm actually a leader. And I think that was the intention of the association, to actually develop leadership skills, because that is how the role of the accountant very often ends up.
Nice. Yeah. Well, why do you think students fail the SBL exam? Because I always find it's a case of they just don't refer back to the actual scenario, what is going on, and then don't think about it in a sort of wider context as well. But what have you seen this year from your students?
Well, I would say that students kind of tend to fall into two camps in terms of the reason for failure. The first is they underestimate it. They look at the syllabus and they think, it's just a bit of blah, 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 and I'll read through the theories and frameworks, and that's all I need, and so on. But of course, it isn't like that at all. And the second is they treat it like an academic examination. So they're very focused on kind of regurgitating textbook knowledge. And again, that is definitely not what's required for SBL. And so I would suggest to any student who is sitting or is about to sit SBL to take support, to invest in someone to help them, to guide them through that process, because it does take a different way of thinking and it does take a lot of practice. In fact, I recently put up on my LinkedIn profile an interview with a student of mine in Vietnam. Actually, and he sat in September. This September just gone, and he got 89% in SBL.
Oh,
yeah, which is for a written subject, it's a mega mark.
What happened to the other 11%? You should have said.
I know. I was very disappointed in him.
You're gonna have to redo it.
I was saying, get back in that room, But I recorded an interview with him, and I would direct anyone who's interested in sitting that exam to listen to what he had to say. And he was particularly interesting because he hadn't sat an exam in 7 years, not since leaving university. So he was exempted everything up to strategic professional, and SBL happened to be the first one, so really impressive performance, and he talks a lot about that.
Oh, nice.
So let's say, if you're interested in listening to him, I have got a video up on my LinkedIn profile. I've actually got a group for SBL students, which is independent.
Nice.
On LinkedIn.
Well, what I'll do for the viewers as well is, Ashim, I'll put your LinkedIn details in the bottom below, so anyone listening can get in touch if you want that actual video to listen back to. I'm sure you'd be more than happy to ping it across, because there's going to be some mega advice in there. If you've not done an exam in how many years and then get thrown into SBL and then get 89 on it.
Absolutely.
Oh my word! I mean, that's fantastic. You recorded that, but we're going to come on to now. We're going to move it on to. I think these are some of the things on the "Do I agree with you" round, which I'm sure that student would have had in his armory as well. Because I like to ask these questions nice and open-ended, so that the viewers out there get to know you. And if they do message you or me on LinkedIn, pop it in that message. Make it personal. I like to hear about it. It's all right. I've had some brilliant ones so far. So let's kick off, because there's always the first question I ask to my guests is, well, if you could listen to one band, one artist for the rest of your life, who would you go for? What's your area of music?
Well, clearly it's a hugely difficult question to answer, but as you've pushed me into the corner, the first artist that comes to mind is Bob Marley.
Right,
I
lovely stuff.
absolutely adore him. Yeah, absolutely love him. He's the artist that I grew up with, I suppose, in my teens. Had a major impact on my taste in music. So yeah, that's the first artist that comes to mind.
If you have a panicking student, do you send them some Bob Marley songs that it's all going to be all right?
Yeah. I think that's a brilliant idea, James. I think I'm going to record that and share it, the night before the exam with all my students.
That'll be all right. But in terms of moving on to the second one, there you can have my Bob Marley idea, full of ideas on this podcast. But in terms of, we've talked about people's skills in terms of whether it be in a workplace, in an office, whatever it might be. But for you, what would you say are the key people skills that you look for in individuals?
People skills or personality traits?
Go for whatever you feel is the most important.
Well, again, the first word that comes to mind in any relationship is trust. Whether it's a professional or a personal relationship, without that initial trust, it's never going to grow and be fruitful as a relationship. So yeah, that would be my immediate response.
I'd have
trust.
But I'd have communication in there as well, which links into building trust as well. And I find it especially in the world of social media, where communication used to be, because I'm quite old school, I like to just call people. I was like, hey, what's up, you okay, and we'll have a quick chit chat, and you build that actually, oh, I'm speaking to James down the phone, he's bothered to pick up the phone.
Right.
And you'll like this actually. I've been out for a coffee, or I've been out for lunch or something on those lines, or I've been out for a walk, and my friend's phone's gone off, and so someone's trying to ring them, and then they look at it and they go, "Dad, I don't really answer calls," and they put it in the pocket. I just go, "That is, I'll just text them later."
Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it?
It really is. Oh, I said, if I call you, you better pick up. That's important. Yes, that's
no doubt. No doubt. Unfortunately, the kind of the ability to connect with people on a personal level has been reduced to words on a screen, which is sad.
Well, if you want to come on the ACCA Global Podcast and have a chat to me, you've got to fit a certain criteria, I must say.
Right.
Yes, it's we won't go into that. That's where they'll have to tune into future episodes. But I always remember these things. And of course, when I pop over to Warsaw, over to Poland, a cold beer is on me. Don't you worry about that. So, actually, no, you prefer wine. We're going wine.
I remember do prefer wine, yeah.
You see, got to listen. It's so good. But
steel trap your brain. Obviously, it's a steel trap. Once the information gets in there, it never gets out.
Well, I usually have long hair as well. That's where it usually stores the knowledge. I'm just worried I don't want to lose it. But but moving on into, there'll be lots of accountants who are watching now, and I've worked in an accounts department before. I've worked in tax. I'm a lecturer now. You work in terms of, you've actually got leadership skills, working globally. But if you weren't an accountant, what do you think you would have gone into, or what interest would you have?
If I weren't an accountant, again, I'm going with the first thing that comes to mind. I think I would be a travel writer.
Lovely.
Or a travel journalist. Yeah, absolutely. I have a huge passion for travel.
Fantastic.
Finding new places, and of course that brings in my communication piece, strength, I suppose. So yeah, I'd love to do that.
Lovely. Gosh, what country or what place that you've never visited before do you want to go to after hopefully COVID settles down or finishes, which would be nice?
Yeah, the sooner the better.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been fortunate to have visited many countries around the world, but one area I've never been to has been South America.
Right.
And it's always been a dream of mine to visit the carnival, attend the carnival in Rio.
Yeah. lovely.
in February. I mean, it's been something that I've had in my mind since childhood. It's been one of my major dreams. So it's been a while coming, but it will happen. So yeah, Brazil, Rio.
Well, if Netflix are watching right now, Ashim and I are more than ready with our backpacks, all ready to head off to South
Absolutely.
America. It would be accountants on tour or something.
Yeah.
We'd have to think of a more ringy name to it or something. But
Sorry, we're imaginative, despite what people say. Accountants can be imaginative. So we'll come up with some very interesting titles.
well, no, it works for you though, because if they just did a solo one for you, it'd just be Ashim's Adventures or Ashim's Accounting Adventures. Whoa, that'll be you go viral. That'll be it.
Oh, I don't know. We'll see. I don't know what impact that would have, but it would be a lot of fun to go to Rio, and it'd be a lot of fun to be a travel writer.
Epic as well. You get some lovely photography down there as well, especially with all the scenes. That'd be mega. That's
have you been down there? Have you been to South America?
No, I haven't. No. I've been to America before, and I usually go to a different. My usual thing every year is I go to a different country every year.
Oh,
Sadly,
brilliant.
not been able to get to one this year. And I have a week usually by myself, and I turn my phone off. Obviously, I let my mum know, and just sort of I did two marathons out in Europe. Wow. I did 4 half marathons in 4 countries over 7 days last year.
How cool was that?
I was knackered on the plane. But the Airbnb I stayed in, I got up at whatever time in the morning it was, ran the half marathon, packed my bag, and then got on the flight. That was it. So yeah, it's good. A really good challenge to set, a good goal. 100% I'll be doing more of that, but who knows, South America could be it. But you're gonna have to get into football though if you go down there, because they are absolutely mad on it. But what sort of sporting area is your favorites that is your go-to, would you say?
I like the contact sports. So in terms of what I watch, I like watching MMA matches. I like the boxing, the UFC, and so on. In terms of my personal hobbies, sporting hobbies, I go to the gym, but my passion ever since I was about 14 has been the martial arts.
Nice.
So yeah, I started out with judo in Ghana. I was a nipper, and that kind of moved into karate, and then traditional jiu-jitsu, which is different to Brazilian jiu-jitsu, which is what you see now. I did traditional jiu-jitsu in London, and then when I came to Poland, after quite a while, I started doing Krav Maga, which some of you may have heard of, which is an Israeli martial art.
Yeah.
And I absolutely adore. So yeah, that's really what excites me, and going to the gym,
Oh, nice.
Making funny noises doing the bench press. That's my turn on.
Hey, at least we're there. I was always against the gym, and then when I started to go, I just went, hey, look. I'm here. Other people that like the gym are sat in bed. They're not here.
Right.
And just once you change your mindset on it, you go, yeah, I am here. And I'm going to make the most of it as well.
Absolutely. Yes. Mindset is everything.
Yes.
Everything. It's brilliant. And you get this great feeling of satisfaction, don't you? Kind of when you leave and you think, yeah, I didn't want to come, but I'm so glad I did. I did. You kind of slap yourself on the back.
Yeah. Oh, the best ones I find are if I go for a run in the evening as well, where a long day at work, bit tired, bit lethargic, and then if you just get yourself in your kit and you think, I'm just going to if I just get out there and do a mile or a kilometre or anything on those lines. And the thing that triggers me is when I go by a house and you just gaze and you catch a glimpse of someone sat on the sofa eating a bag of chips or whatever, and you think, at least I'm out. Look, I'm out. I've got fresh air. And before you know it, you get momentum and you're on your way.
And you're off, yeah, absolutely right.
Mega in my eyes. But we did touch on it there about sort of life as well on there. But if you had to say, what's your biggest life lesson? What would you say in terms of that? Because that's a question I always like to ask people.
My biggest life lesson?
Yes. From
my
your
biggest
experiences.
Life lesson is to follow. It's going to sound a bit trite, but to follow your passions. In other words, to do what really excites you, And the main reason, well, there are two main reasons. The first is that it's where you can gain fulfillment,
Yeah.
personal fulfillment, satisfaction. Um, and the second reason is because by doing that, you're going to be good at it, and by being good at it, you're adding value to others.
Yeah.
And that really, really excites me. So that would be my biggest life lesson, which I learned after I finished school in North London, and I went to university. And for the first year, I was studying mechanical engineering, and the only reason for that was that it was something that my father was. He was an engineer, and it was an expectation that I would also become an engineer.
Yeah.
And I never really questioned it. It was just, and I was like a fish out of water studying engineering completely. I mean, you can imagine. And it was then that I realized that no, this isn't good enough, and I came the way I have come, which is miles away from where I started out, but that's because I love what I do, and that would be my fundamental piece of advice to anybody.
Mega. Yeah.
Love what you do.
Yeah. Main word I always have is just purpose. It's like, that's it.
Yeah.
That's my purpose. That's my
Yeah.
drive. That's why I get up out of bed in the morning. That's it in terms of it.
Exactly.
And the only other thing to add on to that was just don't be afraid to fail or get something wrong or anything on those lines, because at least you're trying, and at least you're doing something, and you're doing something you actually like as well, because there's just so many people out there just not doing what they like and just follow what that is. And there'll be doubters out there. There always are. That's it. There are a great quote. You'll like this as well from the other day. There'll be doubters when you start off, at the start, when you get going. So that's your first knock there. Then when you do get going, there'll be people that question it as well. And they'll go, oh, is it really worth it? Is it worth the time? And then if you actually make it and you actually make something of it, and that is your life, there'll be people that are envious of you, and they won't like it either. So it doesn't matter actually which stage you're at. It's still going to happen. And that really hit me in terms of, I went, yeah, doesn't matter. I'm going to go for it anyway. So
exactly.
there you go. Yes.
Exactly. I mean, which successful person hasn't made mistakes? Which successful person hasn't fallen down? Which successful person has not been doubted?
Yeah.
They all have, but because they had this firm belief in what they wanted to do, what they wanted to discover or find out, and usually that belief was around giving something to society. It wasn't usually because it was good for them. The Wright brothers didn't invent the airplane because they wanted to go for a flight. They invented it because it changed the world. They didn't know that at the time, of course, but I think their ideas were much bigger than just catching a flight to work or whatever it is.
Spot on. I mean, but we've even nudged on a bit too far there in terms of, this is where I have to bring in my Fiona Bruce experience now of, we've got to bring this down to the insights and the experience, where we're nudging onto it already, but we've got to come back onto your area of expertise for the viewers as well. But talk us through leadership as an actual title as well, in terms of what do you see leadership as?
Gosh, that is such a huge question, James. And
well, this is a huge podcast. This is why.
Okay. So you're absolutely right. You Google leadership, and there are 2,000 pages of stuff on leadership. But what I like John Maxwell's definition, which is leadership is about influence. All right. It's about influencing people and influencing situations. Now, the style of leadership that we need today and in the future has fundamentally changed. No longer do we have the hierarchical structures that we had, let's say, 50 or 100 years ago. It doesn't work anymore because we live in such a dynamic environment where, and going back to unleashing people's potential, we need people to engage, to contribute to the organization's future by feeling comfortable, and it's a leader's responsibility. to give them that opportunity and to encourage them to do it.
Mm.
So what does leadership mean? Yeah, I mean, in a nutshell, this really is. It's about influencing. It's about the leader recognizing his or her responsibilities and being able to establish relationships with their inner circles, but also further away, if they're going to take the organization and its people to where they need to go.
Oh, mega. Yeah, you did allude on there as to the future as well.
Oh,
What do
for
you
sure.
see changing in terms of it as well? With this becoming more technology based, and especially the next generation coming through where they are so technology driven and they're on their iPhones and iPads, and it's all what's the word? It's all sort of a bit methodical in sort of how they sort of work. But what are your sort of thoughts on that from your experience?
Well, see, the thing that's happening and has been happening since the 1980s, I suppose, or 90s really, is the technology has enabled all sorts of new ideas to flourish and to actually come into existence. Let's take the obvious examples of, I know, Netflix or
Yep.
Google or Facebook, right? And so all of these things were possible because people they used their imagination
Yeah.
to come up with innovative ways of doing things. Now,
Mm-hmm.
that speed of change and evolution in our personal and professional lives is set to increase. Okay, so what that means is that a leader's job is to say to their folk, look, guys, I don't have all the answers. I have no idea what's going to happen next week, what's around the corner, what new innovation's coming along. We're going to have to work together to see what we want to do and how we can stay slightly ahead of the curve, right? And so, yeah, so the internet clearly is the founding thing, but what has brought on the need for a different kind of leadership is the innovation that has come on the back of the internet, where people bring ideas. Remember, they all start in somebody's mind, bring ideas to life, and it has changed the way we think and behave, probably faster than any time in human history.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely spot on. And just to emphasize on that with the people skills as well involved with it,
Yeah.
where to get a constructive sort of strategy going forward and to have that sort of team allegiance around you as well, that takes real skill in terms of, you can't learn it from a book. You got to put yourself out there. And even if you're in a team at the moment where you're not technically a manager or you're not deemed to be a leader as such, anyone can be a leader in a team.
Absolutely.
That's the other thing. And it's just putting yourself out there, having your own way of going about it, and
Yeah.
trying different things on it, and actually standing up and giving it a go. I mean,
You've got to.
what is the worst that can happen in terms of it? The worst thing that can happen is someone say, no, James, I disagree with you on that. Brilliant, that's okay. Now we can have a proper discussion as to what are your thoughts on it. Okay.
Correct.
And then where do we come in terms of a sort of happy medium? And then it comes down to how you communicate with that person, so you don't overwhelm them or make them feel in a different way that they shouldn't. And then all these little things that people overlook come into it, and you just build on it again.
Right.
That's why I tend to think about it anyway. So
no, you're absolutely right. And this is, this comes down to people skills and the sensitivity and empathy that you need to have as a normal human being, but also as a leader, especially as a leader. The role of the leader is no longer what it was. It's he or she's not expected to have all the answers because they won't. They just won't. And so yeah, a completely different style. Now, I don't want to go too much into detail, but in a nutshell, again, that's what I see the role of the leader going forward to be, to encourage ideas, to encourage people, allow people to make their mistakes in a safe environment where they're not going to be booted out or whatever, because we learn from our mistakes, so we get knowledge. What went wrong. It's I always forget. anyway, a very, very famous scientist.
Yeah.
And he was asked, how did it feel to fail 10,000 times?
Mm-hmm.
And his response was, I didn't fail 10,000 times. I found out 10,000 things that didn't work.
Yes.
Right? Which encapsulates it completely. You make a mistake, but you learn from it. And so you do something else, so yeah.
Yes, I think I mean, this is where I get corrected in terms of, but I think it's to do with how he created the telephone or the light bulb. I'm pretty sure.
The light bulb, I think it was. Yeah, it wasn't Alexander Graham Bell. It was a light bulb guy. I forget his name. What's his name? It'll come back to me as soon as we finished our conversation, I'm sure.
I know. Well, I'll talk a bit over. You'll be thinking in
All
a
right.
different part of your brain on there as well. But
Right.
and then wait, ready. That light bulb will just come on and
It
you'll
will.
remember it.
God,
you
couldn't avoid that, could you?
See, this is where the professional host in me has to come
Clearly.
out. It's all right in terms of it, but
Clearly.
I know.
Good one.
Well, time is just flying by on here as well in terms of it. But I also have to say, is there anything that you would like to get on record to help, whether that's a young accountant out there or someone who's later on into their career? What would be any sort of final words of wisdom that Ashim has got in that Pandora's box of yours to open up to see what's on your mind?
Well, I'll direct it to accountants, especially the young ones, who are starting on their career journey or early in their career journey.
How are you defining a young one, by the way? Just before you get on.
Pretty much everyone's younger than I am, so I guess I need to be a bit more specific. No, I'm talking about someone maybe in their mid to late 20s, early 30s, that kind of age group, because typically that's when they're at the beginning of their careers. And that is to remember that the professional qualifications, and of course, especially the ACCA, I'm a little biased, the professional qualifications are designed to open lots and lots of opportunities for you, right? So yes, you can work as an auditor or an internal or an external auditor, but you look around you, you see accountants in all kinds of roles. They're consultants, they're CEOs. They run their own businesses. They do what we do. They train others. So don't feel that you're limited to a financial role. You've earned your qualification. Make it work for you. And ask yourselves, what is it that I really, really want to do? And then use your qualifications to get you through the door. So that would be my
mega. You leverage it basically in terms of it. That's right. It'll open doors, whatever sort of industry, sector, particular field you want to go into.
Exactly.
I have some students who will be watching this, and I get messages on LinkedIn of, James, I really want to go and work in the sort of fashion industry, or I really quite like the marketing industry where I'm a bit more creative. Right. But I don't think that, as far as I'm aware, there's not much for accountants in there. I just thought, you have no idea. It's a case of we've had people on the podcast and others who contact me on LinkedIn as well. In terms of it, it's a case of they work with the marketing team, they work with the designers, whatever it may be, and you've got to understand the product and you've got to have an interest in it. And if you like to make fashion and clothes and you're good at the figures as well, then going to work for a company like H&M, Primark, Zara, whatever it may be, you're going to absolutely love that. You're going to add massive value. Or if you want to start your own company, about cash flow, profitability. Exactly. It's so well rounded, and I agree with you. It's a case of lots of people just get sort of tunnel vision a bit in terms of it, that it's a big four company for me, 40 years up to whatever it may be, direct level, and then off to the golf course or something. I don't know. It's but there's just so many varied aspects, and hence the reason for the podcast, that you get to hear from members around the world, their experiences, and you can go and connect with them as well. Mega, if you ask me. But
I think it's a great idea of yours, James. Really, really good. Good job. Well done.
Oh, steady. I mean, well, it's a case of on our lovely zero budget, as you always know on here. Look at these notes.
Fantastic.
Oh yeah.
I like working on paper as well. So.
Oh, yeah, but you do remember things a lot better
True,
when you write it
true,
down. So
true.
before every podcast, as we were talking beforehand, go for a little walk, read
Yeah,
through all the points. I've got to know my bits on Ashim as well because we'll keep in touch. I always do with all my guests and new people as well. And who knows who's watching that's hopefully have got lots of value out of it as well. That's the thing.
absolutely right.
Yes. But before we end, one of the
Hmm.
main things of the podcast, which I'm into the environment, I'm a big advocate for it as well, because you've come on the ACCA Global Podcast. I've got a treat for you. This is your acorn on here. Sorry, it's a bit
My
of a smaller one compared to the others,
my
but
very own acorn.
there you go.
How
That
wonderful.
that is going to be planted this weekend, and it's going in my little garden. And
Yeah.
who knows if we're going to have a forest growing at this rate.
Well, that's wonderful. It's a great idea, and I love the thought of an acorn being planted as a result of our wonderful chat. So yeah, thank you. That's great.
Oh,
I'm excited
mega.
about that.
Well, I'll have to do a LinkedIn update where they'll be all in the pots, and it'll
Absolutely.
just be all soil, and then
Well,
we'll
I need to know. I need to know how my oak tree's doing, right? So please remember.
Well, that'll be it. Of course, I remember. They're all lined up in my garden at the moment. It's a case of
Perfect.
I'll have to put on in old school in like chalk or something on there. Ashim, like Ashim's one
Great.
there. That'll be it. So, and then we'll have to have an ACCA race to see which tree goes quicker.
No, but the other guys, the earlier podcast started earlier, so those trees will have had longer.
Well, who knows? All depends on the acorn, I guess, doesn't it?
Well,
But
that's true.
they all get the same TLC. It's all right. We don't have any favorability on this podcast. It's all right. But yes, I must say it's been an absolute treat. A Friday afternoon here, and where does time go?
I know.
Honestly, when you were chatting away, proper stuff, proper conversation, proper topics. If only every meeting was like this. Gosh, it's mega stuff. Well, I must say, for all of our viewers that are with us today, if you would like to connect with myself and Ashim as well, all of our details I'll make sure I put in the actual box below as well. Plus, if you've got any questions, I'll make sure Ashim gets a link on it so that we can answer them below. If you've got any questions, any queries, the ball, well, not to quote tennis on this, is literally in your court on it, so it's okay. Yeah. But have you got much else planned for the weekend, rest of the day? Take it easy?
Well, I mean, all the kind of the bars and the restaurants and the gyms are all closed at the moment here, so fairly limited. Might go out into the countryside and go for a walk or something. But apart from that, no, not a huge amount.
Spot
but
on.
Get out and about, but just relax a bit. I'll do some work tomorrow. And maybe some on Sunday, and that's it really. But looking forward to going on holiday as soon as I possibly can, as soon as they allow us out of the country and back in, of course.
Wow. Well, make sure it's a flight booked to South America for you.
America,
that's the main thing.
Rio, here I come.
Oh, well, on that note, for all of our lovely Brazilian fans out there and other fans from South America, should I say as well, thank you so much for watching today. If you would like access to all of my free materials and the other episodes so you can hear from other ACCA members from around the world, all for free, the subscribe button will be at the bottom as well, where you can like the video, write any comments. As we said, the ball is really in your court on that one as well. Again, just a massive thanks to Ashim as well for coming on today. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've got a lovely book to go away and have a look at now as well. But as always, on that bombshell, everyone, we will see you next time. So thank you, Ashim, and cheers.
James, can I just say thank you so much for organizing this. I really enjoyed it. And you're a pleasure to work with. And I hope that our conversation has added value to people who watch it. But thank you again.
Oh, absolutely mega. That's all right. Well, we'll have to, as the way we started the podcast, we will end it on a 3 and a 2 and a 1. And thank you, everyone. Cheers. Have a sweet day. Cheers.